Hey everyone, happy Mars Day. So I'm wearing the red hat and the Aries themed red hoodie for Mars Day. So should be nice reflection of the energy of Mars. It's been interesting because today Mars has just re-entered ca- into Cancer. The retrograde, when you see planets in retrograde, they appear to stay absolutely still and sometimes go backwards, which is allegedly the rest of the planets catching up and overtaking due to the speeds. But what makes a retrograde is a different discussion. I was more looking at the air, the full moon is in Aries at the moment, and I'd been noticing for the past couple of days, or yesterday and today mainly, I'd been getting a few urges to do things that I don't usually get anymore. One of them was to drink alcohol, which is not something that I usually get as an urge. It's not something that I miss, but I could feel the certain parts of me that were trying to encourage me towards that area in a chemical manner, like in an inner way. I'm not sure if I've eaten something that has caused uh, some of the workers to be influenced in this way, or maybe some stowaways that have been inside for a very long time, survived many fasts. Maybe they're throwing in their idea of what they want, maybe to help create the environment inside for them to thrive. But then I noticed that the moon was in my sun sign, and I realized that once a month I usually get those kind of feels. The moon is very close to the Earth right now, so anything would be felt a bit amplified to do with the moon. Moon and Mars came very close to each other as well recently. Mars actually moved into Leo around November the 3rd. November the 3rd, I was talking about upcoming things that I was doing. I'd fallen behind on doing a video a day, and I was trying to work out new direction for the passion that I have for making videos. The the idea was that there's Mars that represents action and militant planning, making a plan, strategizing, sticking to that plan kind of thing. Find a formula that works. And when Mars went into Leo, that's when the passion got ignited. Started looking a lot more into what I could do video wise to try and find a bit more structure. Uh, Ideas that I was talking about there that are videos that are still in the making, like the Tesla 369, the Links and Dinks of the Fool has been released now, but there is another couple that were around about in the sidelines then, and been struggling to get them out. We're about 2 months down the line now, November the 3rd, so January. Yeah, we've gone 2 months. And Mars has just now gone back into Cancer, and Cancer represents the home or family, or particularly the maternal aspect of home and family. It could be related to your parents or your children, but in this case, it reminded me of how I'd started feeling energies throughout the later part of December to spend less time on the recordings, um, on my passion, trying to push the videos forward, and spend more time with family, with my partner and my mum. And it's interesting because I always tend to feel out for these things before I check the transits. There's usually always something in the transits. If you have a look at which planet is transiting into which star sign or which house, that can tell you quite a lot about yourself or what's going on in the present moment. I'm not one of these people that believes you can predict your future using means of divination. I mean, I believe it's possible, but you're never going to get a guaranteed 100% certainty reading because anything can happen at any moment and it could all change. The future is not decided in that way, even though a lot of things are heading down a direction that looks like it's been planned for years. I think part of that is because the way things are manifested in this world is through belief, shared belief. And the more people that you have that believe a certain thing, the majority is what will dominate in what happens in the physical world. A good example of this is money. Money is kind of meaningless. It's bits of paper with stuff written on it. But it works as a currency because everyone puts their energy into it and their belief into it, and therefore it works. A lot of the news is a scripted reality. And what they tend to do is they'll cast the news like casting a spell. They put the news out there before it's happened and then push it in the direction of things happening so that then people aren't surprised when they do happen. One example of this would have been the London riots. I remember hearing a lot of people. I was living in Romford at the time, um, Greater London, and people were asking if there was going to be any trouble around Romford because we're quite far out from London. But just the simple mention of it was what spread the idea. You get a lot of people, the urban youth types, the ones that were into the looting and running out of the shops with a giant bag of basmati rice. The people in Rumford, it was a much smaller event than what was happening in Tottenham and other parts of London. You had, I think, one chav kicking a window was as much as I'd seen personally. But the gathering of people getting together and causing the mayhem, it starts with all of the talks of it spreading across the media. Social media is more often these days than the news. People will ask amongst themselves, like, is there going to be a riot? Well, let's go down and see. Large gathering of people move to the location. Or when are these riots going to start then? Let's just start here now, bruv. It's going to happen anyway. The whole thing is orchestrated. It's very easy to send people to a direction and get them to act in a certain way if it's being forecast, if it's being foretold. It's down to what people believe. If people believe that a thing is going to happen, they're likely to manifest it. Same as if people believe that someone is going to buy something off of them for money and that that money is going to be worth something somewhere else so that they can buy something, use their wishes. Basically, it's like having loads of little wishes and bits of paper and coins, magic coins, bitcoins, which they're going to be in the future. But this is down to belief. The cryptocurrency the idea has been spread. It's down to how many people in the world are going to believe that the future of currency is going to be e-coins and bitcoins and online coins, cryptocurrency. The more people that believe it, the more people that will put their faith into it, the more people that will be using the system, and the more people that will manifest that as a reality. I think this is one of the reasons that the world is governed by the media and social media. They're encouraged to reproduce as much as possible, as quickly as possible, as early as possible. Everything always sex based everywhere you look. It's all about creating more people, because the more people that there are, the easier it is to manifest things. Because say you've got the 1%, now this 1% going up against the 99% to try and manifest what they want in life. If enough people in this 99% cotton on to what this 1% want, it's not going to happen. They're going to take one look and be like, no. The belief will seriously not be there in the first place. But if they manage to get a bunch of people to believe in a false reality, and they know that people's belief is what manifests reality, the more people that you have believing what you are casting, what you are spreading into the world, the more people that would validate that, the stronger your side is. And if this is a spiritual war, and that's what we're up against, it's being in the matrix, knowing that unless someone else has been unplugged from the matrix at any given point, they could become just another Agent Smith, and they'll be against you in the main story. And I think that that's what it comes down to. People are they are hooked into this scripted reality, and the reality keeps everyone polarized, keeps people on one side or the other. People don't seem to recognize anything outside of what team are you. There's all sorts of arguments that have shown people for the way that they think. There was someone trying to argue that they should get rid of halal meat in the UK. Someone else said that they should get rid of kosher meat as well. And the person that said that they should get rid of halal meat said, oh, well, the Jews have done nothing to upset us. And it's like, well, the original person in the post wasn't talking about getting rid of it for either of those reasons. But when people start jumping in with an assertion, it often is a giveaway. It's a very telling sign of how their mind operates. It's either you're on one side or you're on the other side. It's black and white. There is no middle ground. When you remove the middle ground, that's when it all becomes about whose team are you on? Are you on the right team or the wrong team? Or which is the right team? You're going to have to ask around. The majority will tell you it's them. Who's going to tell you that the opposite team is the right team? And have you ever seen a football supporter tell you that another team is likely to win, likely to beat their team? It's a very self-defeating football. Oh my God, I've just realised with this hat, kind of look like I'm dressed like a football hooligan. Been to a few matches, but definitely was no Green Street kind of action or football factory style living. Just a bunch of people feeling passionate about sport, singing songs with swear words and suggestions for the referee. It's all in good spirit. One of the best things was being in a pub, not at the actual stadium, being in a pub atmosphere where people are all supporting the same team. and everybody has a spirit, a united spirit, where they're all chanting the same songs, being in the same flow of energy. Now, they're amazing moments, but outside of the teams having their battles, you did used to get a lot of people like the Millwall supporters or any of these other firms go around and start attacking people based on what team they support. It's a case of we're on the right side, you're on the wrong side. And that's supremacists. Doesn't need to be race involved or sex involved or anything like that. People will make divisions and then pick a team. And if you're on the wrong team, you will be shunned, you will be outcast, you will be verbally abused. It's a tactic that was employed by the left during recent political debates. Delete or silence anyone or remove from the group anyone whose full ideals don't align with the core beliefs, which I can understand for a company. Something that if you're working for a company, you would need your core beliefs to align 100% with their core beliefs if it's that kind of a company. But when this is social media and people that are part of political parties, it just turns it a lot more into that old, what team do you support? Obviously, when it comes to running the world, you can't do it with just the left or just the right. And it always comes down to a combination of everything, not just left and right. There's other things going on there too. There's usually a middle ground. It tends to be forgotten these days. Everything's about extremes in the world. The media always wants to cast it so that it's a world of duality. Keep everybody on one team or the other. Design the teams so that they'll hook you in based on what you would consider priorities, what you have as higher of a priority than other people. That decides what party you were in. It's like, what's the most extreme example? Often the right are referred to as racists and the left are referred to as paedophiles. That comes about because the right tend to be the ones who focus more on things going badly in their country when inequality causes people to get away with crimes based on what color skin they have or what group that they have protecting them. And then there is the other side that will say that you have to be, the left is pretty much saying that you need to be accepting and tolerant of everyone and celebrate all of our differences, including child abusers and sexual predators. Oh, we need to welcome them in with open arms and give them a cuddle because they're just like you and me. And it's like, I don't quite feel that that level of extreme is good for anyone. I think that it's quite important to love the sinner, but have no tolerance for the sin. Don't think anybody should be having tolerance for child abuse, any abuse really, unnecessary harm. There's a lot of people that will hide behind a group of people in order to get away with doing things that are really against what the group are about in the first place. But that's the nature of this world. Evil people are not going to just come out all wearing hoods and bad guy outfits and just start waving. Like, hey, here we are, here, the bad guys. They're gonna be a bit more mischievous than this, a bit more low key, pun intended, always take a pun. Like a bit more mischievous, the kind of person that low key was, he would get one person to shoot another person with an arrow, and then he can't be blamed for the death. That happened at a great banquet that he crashed. He was the 13th guest. Ended up getting the blind archer to kill the most beloved god. That is how it would operate. Bad people will do things under the guise of good people, so religions often get thrown in. A lot of devout religious people, people of the book, do their best to stay away from things that would damage their body or harm the world around them or cause anyone any stress or grief or unnecessary suffering. And then a group of deranged people that are not in a fit mental state to be able to find their way out of a situation in which they're being coerced into doing something that they really wouldn't want to do if they had their senses about them. Maybe I'm being extremely vague here and it's getting to the point where the message could be lost, but it's generally bad people will do false flags. It's like bad people tend to want a fight to kick off that doesn't include them, that they can orchestrate from the outside. So if they have two enemies, the easy answer is to get those two enemies to fight. Say, for argument's sake, your two enemies were China and Russia. Rather than fight China or Russia head on, you would want a fight to kick off between the two of them. And then you step in with whatever solution, which is the position on the chessboard that you were looking at from the first move. That's how these people play. It's not very straightforward like they put it in the films. The films are part of the programming. Things used to be very straightforward in films because you need to be able to believe that this leads to this without much solidarity behind it. It's about how your belief would flow. If you believe that that can be the way that things are, that can end up being what is manifested. Like someone convinces you that the enemy is a group of people that are minding their own business, hanging around a religious place of worship or a busy shopping center, having some food with the family, and they've convinced you that these people are the enemy and you need to drive into them with a vehicle or use explosives or a gun or something to take out these non-believers or whatever it is. Like, you're in a very desperate situation at that point. It's not something that the books would ever tell you to do. You would know if you were able to read the books for yourself rather than listening to what someone else tells you they say. And people are programmed into just listening and accepting. You go to a church, they read you specific excerpts from different things. I'm not insulting the people at the churches that are genuine, trying to help people and not out there molesting kids and feeding money to an organization that protects people that molest kids. Like, there are people there that are unaware of any of the dark side of it that are just there trying to read out things for people to help get them through the toughest of times. But you will find that they're given certain areas to talk about, and it will stay within certain areas because that is how it needs to be set up. Whether these people are in the know or not, it's set up in a way that only certain parts are focused on and certain parts are not, which is why you only have 66 books in the Bible now as compared to 88 that were there before. I think the 88 still exist in the Ethiopian Bible, which is something that I will get my hands on eventually, do some readings for or from. But yeah, Mars and conflict and duality. So the Mars being Mardi or Tuesday, like today, the Tears Day, God of War. You always have the choose that comes from Tears Day. It's partly because of Tyr putting his hand inside Fenrir's mouth, I think, had it chewed off. Thought that was an interesting link with the name Chew, which is the Anglo-Saxon version of Tyr, the Norse god of war. So the other murder, or the other meaning of choose, is pick a side. Because it's war day, you have to pick what side you're on. Could be a right or wrong answer here, depending on who you're talking to. And they're not going to let you know what side they're on until you give your answer. It's interesting that they have tried their best to remove the middle ground in this world so that you will have to pick a side. Someone asks you what your stances are politically, you could say, I don't know. And then they could ask you where you stand on specific issues. And you could answer in such a way that they will pick a side for you because people have been trained to see that you're one way or you're the other way. Even though, in truth, we each have our own individual fingerprint that we place upon it. And we're all part of this very big spectrum that goes from far left to far right. And people know that birds cannot fly with one wing. It takes an equal amount of both to be able to rise off of the ground, to get off the ground to begin with. So you've got the left, which covers repetition, so it needs routine. Things like sleep, things like blinking, things like breathing, things like your circadian rhythm, which is interesting that that would be associated with the left, as it's usually the right brain that is associated with this. So if that's the left side of the body, it's the right side of the brain, which is subconscious, which I imagine is similar. Then the left brain would be in control of the actions, the impulses that are being sent to different bodies, the commands. It sounds very direct, straight line like, which is the left brain to deal with straight lines, the right brain is to deal with curves, as it's feminine, the left brain is masculine. And it's another case of picking a side. All of us have within us a divine masculine and a divine feminine, but it's just saying that we have a left and right brain. We need to honor both of them because you struggle to operate without certain parts active. And I think that paying attention to what energy rules the day definitely helps try and plan out where things are going, how to look at things. And I see that for the near future anyway, being that Mars has just gone back into Cancer, my main focus is going to be on things at home, things with my partner and things with my mum. Seems very simple when I look at it like that. Everything else can take a back seat for a while and carry on moving forward with the rest of the energy as is. So for the next day, just got to avoid more of these temptations, try and pull me back into a darker life, try and lure me to places where I might take harder drugs, try and get me to smoke more than I feel like I need, or to drink alcohol again after 2 years. If I was walking past someone smoking a cigarette right now, it would smell attractive to me. I've noticed this every time that the moon is in my sun sign. It's like you're being given the temptation to do something that is going to pull you back a step. And they say that the rewards for saying no to these things are truly amazing. And I think that you do eventually manage to shed this feeling, but I become very sensitive to it whenever the moon goes through my sun sign. So I'm an Aries. The moon is in Aries right now and very close to the Earth, so very easy to notice. When it is a full moon, it's even more noticeable. But each month, when the moon is in your sun sign, that is when they say the chrism oil is released. And if you manage to get it to complete the circuit and sit in meditation, you use the vibrations of your voice to bring the energy up while you're in a state of a rhythm of deep breathing. The deep breaths apparently allow for the fumes from this oil, the chrism oil, to ignite, and the energy shoots up your spine, up the Kundalini path, and bursts open your third eye, hits your pineal gland, activates the dimethyltryptamine, it gives them pressure, which creates a piezochromatism that causes your brain to open up in the way that you would with an ayahuasca experience or powerful psychedelic drug experience. And if you can manage 13 of those or 12 of those in a year, that's when you would have the true presence at Christmas, the presence of Christ, who is King. That happens when you anoint the place called Pineal. If you manage to anoint yourself with the oil, the chrism oil, that helps you achieve Christ consciousness, also known as Krishna consciousness. Krishna means black, so it would be the subconscious side of the brain. So what else is black? Saturn is black, the black cube god that created this place that we're in, much like a black box that creates simulations. So thoughts and data and other information is turned into matter. Things are crystallized into matter in this place. And if it all comes from the darkness, the light is what is produced. The darkness could be seen as the creator of the material world. So that's Saturn. What else was there? Christ. You always hear about the planets. They tend to castrate the previous father planet. So Kronos ended up uh, castrating the one before him. Who was it? You have Kronos is Saturn. Saturn would have castrated Uranus. Uranus would have been someone, not Pluto. That's the Roman other god. Would have been Neptune. I can't remember who Kronos' dad was. But yeah, I'll use the Roman gods to make it easier. The Uranus would have been castrated by Saturn. Saturn was castrated by Jupiter. And castrate doesn't just mean to chop off the dangly bits off, it means to usurp the power. So, one theory that is out there is that the sun is the king right now that has all of the power, that each of the planets took a turn. And after Uranus, it was Saturn. After Saturn, it was Jupiter. After Jupiter would have been Mars. A lot of the time, they'll have the lineage down. I think Mars was made of Juno and Jupiter, which is one of the moons of Jupiter. This feels like it needs a whole other video to be able to get it in some kind of order. But the idea is that the son takes over from the father. A bit like, I mean, it's genderless. It's the child takes over from the parent, really. Just that until you put gender into the equation, we're all men. Some men have wombs. They are womb men, but we're all mankind. It's just another way of tripping yourself up with words, having to try and keep balance, saying and women every time should be implied. It's like for my generation, everybody was a dude, whether you're male or female. Now, generations, like everyone's a chick. So I blame Kathleen Kennedy. I do think keeping an eye on where the planets are, what's going on as above, helps let you know what's going on so below. And tarot cards are a good way of letting you know, bringing things to light from within. I think none of it's going to tell you your future, but then I don't really think that there's much of a future anyway. It's just an ever present now, one ever present moment in which we need nothing, as we are everything. We are just a droplet inside of a boundless ocean. And the droplet we are also contains everything inside of the boundless ocean. I know, right? Containing something boundless, eh? It's a paradox right there. Can't have an ocean without seeing a paradox occasionally, and a paradoxlings. That's why I don't feel too much like the new year makes much of a change. For me, the New Year's resolution is a good way of trying to be consistent. I did my breathing exercise today, doing my best to try and maintain that at least once a day. Breathing exercise, build up bigger lung capacity. Found it quite difficult a few times. I had to remember to keep tissue with me because it does cause you to release a lot of mucus, or it can do. Yeah, the reason why it's a thing is because the country I live in switches to the year 2025 in January. So it gives me a marker to work with, try and keep my consistency levels up, but that's about it. Don't really care much for the new year. I've got another new year coming up on the 29th of January, the Chinese New Year, where we're moving to enter the snake. We're going to be, sorry, Year of the Snake. It's going to be a very interesting year for many reasons, a very challenging year. It is what it is. This too shall pass. And the date that Mars entered Leo last was the 3rd of November. It was a day after the Hindu New Year. I think that the location of the planets and what's going on in the stars at the given time is worth more than the date written down. But then there have been some interesting links with the dates and the numbers, because everything has got a certain energy to it based on what numbers and what symbols are used. And I have to stop here before I waffle on for hours about things that go around in a cyclic nature. But yeah, I think probably take it back to the war, the conflict and friction between two sides. Does it mean that we actually have to pick a side and that we can't just be on the fence anymore? That we can't just sit in the middle and say six of one, half a dozen of the other? So that's where I feel like I sit. It's like it's always a case of six of one, half a dozen of the other. That's zodiac cycle right there for you. The six signs above, the six signs below, as above, so below. So the idea that the middle ground would be removed and you have to pick a side implies that one side is right and the other side is wrong. It's like you're turning the 12 into a 6, fusing together the two opposing sides of each. Basically, keep collapsing everything that way until it all becomes one. You could keep dividing it until it becomes infinity, an infinite amount of division. I think that with the amount of places that you can go to and find yourself welcomed in on the team, maybe it's just about going around and getting the experience. Maybe it's about knowing what it feels like to be welcomed and accepted by one team and rejected by the other. It's pretty much how magnets work. You're going to be positive or negatively charged. And then there should be states where we won't have so much of an outside force pushing us this way or that way. We won't have the strong magnetic or the forceful electric influences to get us to pick a side. We'll instead be able to just be and let go of everything that we thought to be true. Let go of everything that we thought to be the right way and the right side, and spend a bit of time learning and absorbing information rather than already assuming that we have been given the right information. Everyone can get to a stage where they start looking for the third point of view. So you have the two polar sides, you have the left and the right, and you see the central point of view. You have the guy staring at the 6 on the floor and the guy staring at the 9. Now, someone on the third side can show them this funny squiggle on the floor, which is either a 6 laying on its back or a 9 laying on its front, whichever way you want to envision it. The middle of the road will show you it's both and neither. So I guess there's three choices. But two of the choices are pretty much the same choice when you realize that we are all one. The only thing then that becomes apparent is that the choice itself in the first place was an illusion. That once you're able to recognize what you're in, what you are, you don't need to make a choice. Everything will become obvious as to how things are going to go and how things are supposed to be, what the natural order will be, what will be considered natural at that point. And it'll be because your mind at that stage will be at such an impressive level of belief and mastering reality, you'll be able to navigate your way through a lot easier. Yeah, I'm gonna end it here before it gets way too complicated. I appreciate any of you that have been watching this long. It's been a bit of a long one. Uh, Happy Mars Day, what's left of it. And otherwise, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.